All right, so today we're going to be showing how to use CT images of fish, and we're going to be loading them into 3D Slicer to segment their spines. This will allow us to run bone texture analysis on the spines when we want to compare and contrast fish that have been treated with oil or some other chemical to a control group fish. So we're trying to look at how that treatment is going to affect different statistics on their bones or different, categories that make up the bone. Sorry, I'm trying to get a good word for it, but so I'm loading up 3D Slicer, and what I'm going to be using is this little drop down bar here. This is going to be the central area for all your modules. So we'll get into a few different ones, but the main ones we're going to be looking at today is the segment editor and some of the quantification, which I talked about earlier, using the bone texture, different ways we can analyze features of the bone. So first thing we're going to want to do is go to add DICOM data, and this will bring us to this section right here. I'm going to full screen it right now. But as you can see, I've already had some loaded up. So each fish will have its own number. It'll have maybe 1, 2, or 3 files, just depending on which kind of fish it is. It can be looked at as F1 generation, F2, either male or female, depending on the treatment or control. But more of those specifics are with Dr. Galvez or on different spreadsheets that we have. But the ideal fish that we're going to be looking at is fish 116. And like I said, there's different magnifications to it, but the 1.3 magnification is going to be the one that we want to be using most of the time, just because it's able to capture the entire fish. Usually the 2.5 will only be looking at the skull. And we want the entire spine right here, right? So we just loaded that in. And as you can see, you're going to have your 3 different planes right here that are going to be showing different parts of the fish, or different, I guess you could say, angles of the fish and how the image is taken. So it looks exactly the same as when you go to the doctor's office and they give you a CT of your sinus, your head, or whatever you got, and you're looking at different planes, right? He's scrolling the mouse through them, and it's almost like it's like an image just going straight through you, right? So here you can kind of see the spine on this right hand corner. It'll do the same thing in the middle, and this one's going to be moving through the top of the fish. So this will be a good kind of indicator or view of where that spine is and how deep you're getting into the spine. As you can see, the spinal canal, I guess you could say, it has a little hole in between the white. That's where we're going to be looking at the entire time. So right on this left hand side, it's going to be the loaded data, right? And you're going to have these, it's going to say node right here. It's basically kind of the order of how everything loads, and you don't need to worry too much about that right now, but we'll get into that later when we're trying to make volumes or make a model, so to say. But first, after we've done that, right, the next thing we're going to want to go to is segment editor. But first I'll show you how you can kind of view the fish in 3D. So we got a volume rendering, right? And then we're going to come down here, CT scan. That's just going to be loaded up automatically. And then we have this icon to the left of volume. So we'll click this. It's going to be a little slow when you do that. It might not pop up. So what you can do is you can go in this left-hand corner right here and click center view. And it'll take a second. And so you're probably wondering what's going on here. This is not a fish. Every fish CT that we currently have was taken in a cylinder where the intensity of the image is kind of similar to the outside of the fish. So it'll come up like that. But on this left hand side, you have this shift bar. This will allow you to move this through, and as you can see, it goes deeper in the fish. So it's all these parts coming together to show you this 3D rendering. And this is exactly what we want, right? It's going to have the spine, there's going to be the skull, there's going to be everything. And this is just kind of your initial view. If all those slices, these little slices when you're scrolling through the images, if all those came together, this is what would pop up. So it's great that we can see that. But if you do that, it kind of makes it a little slow. So I would just keep that off for now. And we'll get into a a better image of what we're looking for later. So first thing, like I said, segment editor is what we're going to go to. And if you've ever used any photo editing apps or anything like that, you know that everything is layers, how you create the image or how you create the video, or whatever it is. It's all based on layers coming together to, you know, make that final project, I guess you could say. So first thing, we'll just label it a spine. If we want, we can change the color. So since this is mainly for anatomical use, it's kind of already have these, you know, preset colors. You can do whatever you want, but I'll use bone here. If you just want to change it, like, you can do that, but we'll just select that as bone. And so the first thing that we're going to look at is the different ways to segment. I have some in my workflow. It just shows different methods that you can use to segment the spine of the fish, but I'll just run through a few real quick, and then we'll get to the one I think that's most efficient, and just the series of steps that you need to take using that to get to where the final image is just the spine, right? So first thing is threshold. So this is just taking different intensities from the tissue around the spine or those organs, and it's comparing it with the intensity of the spine, and it's making a contrasting color to it. So here you can kind of see that yellow color, right? So it's picking up the spine as this high intensity figure or feature that we want. So we can look at that, and we'll go through. So to kind of zoom through, you would hold control in these planes and just scroll your mouse. You want to get on a good image of it showing probably the biggest part of the spine, just so you can maximize how your intensity is going to be. But I usually look at this one, or you can look at this one on the right, and those are good indicators of it. So most of this is going to be covered right here. The entire spine looks like it's good, and it's better to be safe than sorry when using this threshold range bar over here on the left, because we'll show how later on you can just edit out the outside noise, like the ribs or the spinal processes that's coming out. So this is just a sneak peek at this, and we'll get back into that. Another thing you can use, right, is grow from seeds. So what that's going to do is you're going to have multiple layers there. You're going to have the background layer and the spine layer that you want, and you'll use this paint tool over here, and you'll go through each of these three planes and essentially just paint out an area that you like. The program will automatically pick that up and start selecting contrast like that. The only thing with it is it does take a little while, so you have to go through each plane multiple times through many different slices, painting the spine. You have to do the same thing for the background and go through 3 different planes. It is very detailed. It does take a while, but I do think that you can get the same results using the method that I'll be showing in a little bit. Other than that, I think it's the draw tube. I'm sorry, let me see. I think it might be mask volume, and you're like using the draw tube, and it's just, you're basically drawing around the spine, and it's supposed to be selecting it, and then it creates a layer like that. It's not bad, but I don't think it does a good enough job, and it requires a lot more editing later on. So let's just go back to the threshold, and like you see, we have a good threshold here. It should pick most of it up. We could go a little higher just in case, and let's just do it at that, and we'll hit apply right here. So that'll make our layer. You can see most of this is thresholded. It's gonna look smooth, so this is just kind of staticky. That's just how it's pixelated, but as you'll see, we'll go to show 3D. Right, there you go. And so we'll zoom in on it. So perfect, right? Now we can see the spine. And you're probably asking, well, what is this thing around here? It's just kind of part of the cylinder, I guess. But this brings us into some of the other different tools we're going to use. So scissors tool, right? It's just essentially cutting out, you know, outside noise, or just mainly larger objects that you probably, it's just easier to get with the scissors. So we'll just go on top of it. And the scissors will have a few options, but the most efficient one is just erase inside for what's necessary. You can usually leave it at that, and that'll bring us into something else. So we'll go to the eraser tool. The eraser tool is good because we can do edit in 3D. So you can see a ball will pop up, and we'll just edit this. And watch this. So we're just gonna kind of cut through this area right here, and it'll make almost like an island, so to say, right? And then here's another one. It's just this extra noise that is somehow popping up, but we don't need it. So this will bring us into the islands little thing right here. So what islands is going to do, like I said, you could think of these as little islands, right? They're just kind of floating, and what you want to really find out is your big island. So our big island is obviously going to be the spine, right? But just a quick sneak peek at it, you usually just keep it on the keep largest island. You know, hit apply, and you'll see the small outside noise kind of go away. But the thing is, you do have to have it separated, so that's why I use the eraser tool. And that'll lead us into the method that I've kind of figured out works the best, is using that eraser tool in the islands to keep just gradually minimizing it to just the spine, right? So I usually try and figure out where that spine is going to start. So as you can see my ball, it's going to be right around here. So we can just kind of cut through, and that's going to just take it off like slice by slice, layer by layer. So you can just keep drawing through it, and we want it separated like we said, right? So none of that's attached anymore. We'll go back to islands, keep largest island, apply. All right, and you'll see, all right, it'll go away. So that beats half the battle. The next thing we want to do is just kind of go around and do that to everything, and I'll show you how we'll start to get into taking the spine out. Oops, I don't know what just happened. Give me a second. Okay. We actually can full screen it if we want to, but okay. So this is probably where we're going to start it. So we'll go back with the eraser, and we'll third down the diameter a little bit, just because we want to be a little more detailed with it and don't want to mess up too much. And we're just getting into different parts of the bone, and you'll see this was probably a really good cut actually. Okay, I think that's most of it. And we'll just do this for instance, just so we can kind of quicken this up a little bit. So, right, we'll go back to islands. Let's do that again. We'll erase most of the stuff we want out of there. Alright, and then let's just get this out of here too. You pretty much just want to make sure it's not connected. Alright, so we'll go back, do it one more time. And I'll show you kind of how we can do that on the spine, which works really well. But you do need to be a little bit more detailed. And here you kind of want to go, you can go back here, right, and run through the slices some more. So with this, we'll want to zoom in on the spine. And what we're going to want to be doing is going through each part right here and separating the rib bones. And then we'll flip it around, separate these little processes that lead into the fin bones up here. Yeah, so we'll do that with the eraser tool. Actually, let's start with this. So the thing is, with the images on the bottom, why I kind of brought those back up is because you can do it in here and it'll cut it like that. But with this, you would have to go through multiple slices, right, to get the full thing cut. So it's maybe a little easier to just do it in 3D, but if you want to be very precise with it, I would definitely go down there and do that. This isn't too bad, especially when you want to clean it up big time. Here I'm just going to be showing you kind of quickly how you can get through this. All right, so it's going to convert those into little islands. That's exactly what we want. I don't know what that is. Okay, perfect. come over here too. Go back. And right, we're getting smaller and smaller with it. So that probably was a really good place to start. Right, you can almost see, sorry, it's kind of bugging out, but you can pretty much see right down the spinal canal. So next thing we'll want to do is kind of clean up that top area. Let me see, I need to cut this off. Do that. And then we'll just keep that there for now. So this might be where you want to shoot. Alright, so that happens, just do Control Z. It'll go back for you. There's a way you can shift the image as well. So like I'm kind of rotating it on a 3D axis, but it only zooms to the center of the image. There is a way you can move around, and I kind of do not remember right now. When I come back, I'll figure it out. But it's easier once you know it, because then you can just shift around, zoom in, cut those areas. But like I said, we'll just kind of go quickly through that. So I'll show you what we're going to be doing at the top. And the thing is with this is that, you know, you have to be consistent. So if you're going to look at, you know, one fish and you're going to cut it, you need to be cutting it at almost a similar height and figure out, you know, what is the point that I want to cut the fins off. So I think where we have it is good. It's all very symmetrical. So here I'm kind of going under it. Not really a good angle, but you can see it's pretty clean. Actually, here, I'll go back. So yeah, there we go. Do it like that. Right. There we go. So let's go back 2 islands. We'll probably have to clean it up a little bit still, but you get the gist of what I'm doing. It's just going in, and it's an easier way to clean it up like that. After that, you can go in and, you know, I probably could have left it a little, but that was another thing, like keeping the intensities a little higher, so those connections like right there and everything stayed some more. So just be mindful of that. This is still very, you know, very good looking. It shows the entire spine. Like I said earlier, when you're kind of looking at that skull and you're erasing that part, I would probably go slower and just start erasing the top of the skull, and then finding out where the spine does start. So that way you can be consistent in your work. Because each fish, you're going to have to do the same thing if you want it to be accurate, if you want it to be reliable, valid. So once we have this, we can just say this is our segments. It's fine. Like I said, you can go more in depth with it. If you want to do like a local threshold, you can go into each slice and kind of add some more intensities to it. It might bring some more figure back to it. You can do that. You can do some more erasing and whatnot, and just kind of edit it up like that. But like I said, this is probably the most efficient way to do it. You just need to make sure you're consistent with each fish. More detail oriented, a longer way would be Grip from Seeds, which isn't bad at all. That one may help being more consistent, but I think once you can figure this out and learn on each fish, like where the spine's going to start, where I'm going to end that erasing tool at the top, where the processes are starting or where the ribs are starting, then I think you're a-okay. But once we go from there, right, like I said, we want to get into the bone statistics, the bone feature analysis, and everything like that. So we got this, and let's see. What we're going to do now is we can just the baseline bone statistics, or statistics, I guess, would just be the segment statistics. So, right, we went up here. We go to quantification, segment statistics. So this one you don't have to do anything to. You can literally finish the segment and you're already going to be into it, right? Segmentation, just do segmentation. You don't have to do anything, and it could, just pop up number of voxels, which in some literature that I've seen, the number of voxels is supposed to directly correlate to Hounsfield units. Hounsfield units are important when looking at some scoliosis and kyphosis and different things like that. There is some literature where they're using Hounsfield units within each vertebrae to look at some differentiation. So if you're going to do that, then that will definitely help. You would just need to kind of verify if the voxel capacity is correct and if they're directly correlated to the Hounsfield units, right? And then it'll go into different volumes, surface area. So it has those statistics. It's very baseline, though. It is very baseline. So we kind of want more out of it, right? So what we're going to have to do is we're going to look at some other statistics here. Right, so let me see. Okay. Where is it? Segmentations. Okay. So we need to go to segmentations, and this part is a little weird to me. I don't fully understand why you need to do it. I think it's mainly just exporting kind of that segmentation that you made into a full figure to where you can start to look at it holistically rather than in pieces. So what we're going to do is just come down here and you're going to go export, import models and label maps. Export, you're going to choose label map, and then all you're going to do is hit export. And so when we go, okay. And then when we go into data, so when we go into data, you can see it's saying segmentation, spine, label, right? You don't need it viewed, you don't need it to be open or anything like that, but there is your segmentation, spine, label. So this you can move around up and down, but we'll get into why you need to do that later. So that's just the indicator that you've gotten past the first step, but there's like a volume for what you can use later on to start segmenting or start looking holistically at the spine statistically. All right, so we go back into quantification. We're going to want to do compute BM features, which we go bone morphometry, compute BM features, right? So the BM features, they'll show up, but it's going to be the percent bone volume, the trabecular thickness, trabecular separation, trabecular number, bone surface to bone volume ratio. And in my workflow, I have descriptions of what each of these look at, how to kind of use them in a statistical differentiation or comparison. But look, so the big thing here is that, right, we just created that volume. So we're going to select it, segmentation, spine, label, input mask. I would just do that. And the big thing is making sure that the threshold is at 1. I've tried to do 0.5, but it doesn't work. I've tried to do 2 or like 1.5. That doesn't work. And I want to make sure that everything I have on it is correct real quick. Okay, I thought I had it written down, but I don't. It is 1 though, so what we'll hit here, we'll hit apply. I don't necessarily know why it's not popping up. But yeah, right, so percent bone volume 1. So that seems to be the ideal number, right? You want the percent of the bone volume to be whole. So, and then no trabecular separation. So it means I'm almost positive that it's saying that it's not, there's no distance in between them. So it's calculating it all together. Right, so if that if that increases, then you're going to see some separation within the spine or within the bone. Like I said, all this has some descriptions in my workflow. So that's going to give us those statistics. Next, we'll get into the Mac Daddy, the pinnacle of 3D bone statistics. All right, is going to be these GLRLM features. So pretty much the way to describe these are, imagine you have a picture of different spines like x-rays, and you want to understand how the properties of these spines change. Right, in this scenario is in CTs, especially when they're treated with oil. All right, and that's just an example. It could be other chemicals. So the GLRLM it's a tool that helps you read the texture of these spine pictures. In each picture, GLRLM looks at how pixels of similar darkness are arranged in a row, vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. It then counts how long these rows of similar darkness or runs are. So it's gray level run. It means something. Like I said, I wrote it down. I don't know why it's not showing up again. But these runs is what it's. So every time it makes a run, it's scanning it. So it's scanning it in those different directions. So, and like I said, I have more info on each different parameter that the GLRLM feature will show, and it'll pop up in a second. But it's essentially a tool that helps you analyze the unique texture of spine images, and it's allowing you to identify any specific properties or patterns that might be influenced by treating spines with different chemicals or oils, so to say. So we've already done the hard part, so all we got to do is just go down to compute GLRLM features. And right here, like I said, these are the different parameters that it's going to be looking at. Right. And I said, you know, I have different descriptions and whatnot on there. So this was another thing that took a while, but the pixel intensity minimum needs to be 1. It can't be 0.5. It can't be 2 either. So just keep that at 1. And there's our outputs. We go to select volume. We want that. Input mask. I just do this. And this will hit apply. And you just kind of, I guess, want to be writing these down once you go through them. But for the most part, this will take a second or so. And then we'll have our statistics. There we go. So in my thing, I have the parameters of like what numbers you want to be looking at, but you can always look this up online. There's a bunch of literature on it. But this is the pinnacle of what we're looking at and how we can compare and contrast different spines. So the last thing that I want to show is when you go to save. So let's say we go to save data. Right, we're going to want to save everything. So there's different files within the program that's able to allow us to get these statistics and allow us to have these segmentations. So these are the different files, right? They have different tags and everything. What you can do is you can hit this thing, and it pretty much just bundles it up into one thing. You can choose where you want that to go. I use a flash drive, but and I'll delete it afterwards, but let's just save it to desktop right now, and then we'll save it, and I'll go through it when we load it up again. I'll have to edit the workflow a little bit. I thought I had some more information on there, but it didn't, so I'll go add that in. But yeah, so we just saved it. Let's exit out. Oh, sorry, I actually logged out of the computer that I was using. I'll edit this part out. Okay. Yeah, so no, we don't want to exit out. What we can do is this. And it'll adjust, but we'll just exit. All right, so we're back to the home screen. So this is what we just, this is what we just saved. And when we load it back up, you're gonna see that you're gonna see that the CT image doesn't load. So I'll show you how you can kind of help with this issue. Error code loaded select files. Yeah, right. So it's just showing the intensity right there, just showing the parts that we had taken out. So you can go back to data. I don't know. I think this is what's. Yeah. Yeah. So what you can do, and I think it's. There you go. What in the world? There you go. Let's see. So I think you can just load this in. Yeah. Yeah, we just have to do this. But you can just load it back in. And then you'll just, excuse me. You'll load it back in and you'll see you'll just get the overlap. It's going to be marked as CT scan 1, so yeah. Yeah. Or sorry, it's going to be a CT scan. So, or I guess it allows for CT scan 1 to work. I don't know, but you can use that in your own way, and that's how you kind of get that back. So that's pretty much everything. Like I said, I have a lot of stuff in the workflow. I hope that covers everything. Yeah. So, yeah.